What is the difference between good, better and best? Do you know it? They all describe something nice, but they don't mean the same thing. In English, adjectives have 3 degrees of comparison to show how much or how strongly something is described. If you want to know about the comparison of adjectives, then you are in the right place. Hello and welcome back to my channel and today's English grammar session. So today, let's learn how to compare things using positive, comparative and superlative adjectives. So let's begin. Now let's learn something very interesting about adjectives. Adjectives can change their form when we want to compare things. And these changing forms are called the degrees of comparison. Let's understand with a simple example. First, Rama's mango is sweet. Here we are only describing one mango, so this is the positive degree. Next, Hari's mango is sweeter than Rama's. Now we are comparing two mangoes and we use sweeter. This is the comparative degree. Finally, Govind's mango is the sweetest of all. Here we are comparing more than two or many mangoes, so we use sweetest. This is the superlative degree. So remember, sweet, sweeter and sweetest. That's how adjectives show comparison. Let's go to the next slide. Now let's understand the 3 degrees of comparison one by one. First is the positive degree. This is the simple form of an adjective. It only shows that a quality exists. For example, sweet, tall, brave. Like Rama is tall. Next comes the comparative degree. This shows a higher degree of the same quality and we use it when we compare two persons or two things. For example, sweeter, taller, braver. Like Hari is taller than Rama. Finally, we have the superlative degree. This shows the highest degree of quality and we use it when we compare more than two persons or more than two things. For example, sweetest, tallest, bravest. Like Govind is the tallest of all. So remember, positive means normal, comparative means higher, and it is a comparison between two persons or things, and superlative means highest. It is a comparison among more than two things or persons. Clear? Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's learn another way of comparison. Sometimes instead of using comparative forms like stronger or lazier, we can compare using the words less and least. For example, instead of saying Rama is stronger than Balu, we can also say Balu is less strong than Rama. So here we use the word less or least. Both sentences mean the same thing, but the second sentence uses less. Now look at the next example. Instead of saying Hari is the laziest boy in the class, we can say Hari is the least industrious boy in the class. Here we use least to show the lowest degree. So remember, less is equal to comparison between two and least is equal to lowest among many. This is also a correct and useful way of comparison in English grammar. Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's learn a very interesting point in grammar called the superlative of eminence. Sometimes we use the superlative word most not for comparison but simply to show a very high degree of equality. This means here most does not mean the highest among many. It only means very or extremely. Clear? For example, this is most unfortunate. Here it does not mean the most unfortunate thing in the world. It simply means very unfortunate. Next example, it was a most eloquent speech. That means it was a very impressive and powerful speech. And look at this one, truly a most ingenious device. This means the device is extremely clever. So remember, most plus adjective can sometimes mean very, and this is called the superlative of eminence. Got it? Yes. Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's see how to form the comparative and superlative degrees. For most one-syllable adjectives and even for some two-syllable adjectives, we form comparison by adding er and est. So the positive degree is the simple form, the comparative degree ends with er and the superlative degree ends with est. Clear? Look at these examples. Sweet becomes sweeter and sweetest, tall becomes taller and tallest, brave becomes braver and bravest, clever becomes cleverer and cleverest, Kind becomes kinder and kindest. So remember this rule. Positive plus er is equal to comparative and positive plus est is equal to superlative. This is the easiest and most common way of forming degrees of comparison. Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's move to some special spelling rules we follow while forming the comparative and superlative degrees. Sometimes you cannot simply add er and est. The spelling changes a little and we must follow certain rules. Rule 1. If an adjective ends in e, we simply add r and st. For example, brave, braver, bravest. Large, larger, largest. So here we don't add er directly. We just add r and st. Then comes rule 2. If the adjective ends in y and the y is preceded by a consonant, then we change y into I and then add er and est. For example, happy, happier, happiest. Heavy, heavier, heaviest. So remember, y becomes I before adding the endings. Next, rule 3. If the adjective is one syllable and it ends in a single consonant and before that consonant there is a short vowel, then you double the last consonant. For example, red, redder, reddest. Look at the spelling, red red, but redder redder. So another d has been added here. Similarly, big, bigger, biggest. So here we double d in red and double g in big. Clear? So these are the three important spelling rules we must remember while forming comparative and superlative degrees. Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's learn another important rule of comparison. Some adjectives are long, meaning they have more than 2 syllables. For such adjectives, we do not add er or est. We use more for the comparative degree, most for the superlative degree. And we keep the adjective in its positive form. For example, beautiful, more beautiful and most beautiful. Difficult, more difficult and most difficult. Industrious, more industrious and most industrious. So remember, whenever the adjective is long, we simply use more and most before it. That's the easiest way to compare long adjectives. Got it? Yes. Now, this is our next slide. Now let's look at a very interesting rule. Some 2-syllable adjectives can form their comparative and superlative degrees in 2 different ways. That means we can use er, est or more and most. Both forms are correct. For example, polite, politer, politest or polite, more polite and most polite. Similarly, simple, simpler and simplest or simple, more simple and most simple. Gentle, gentler and gentlest, or we can say gentle, more gentle and most gentle. So we can use either form and the meaning remains the same. Just remember, these are special 2-syllable adjectives that follow both styles of comparison. Clear? Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's learn a very important rule. Sometimes we don't compare 2 people. Instead, we compare 2 qualities inside the same person. So in this case, we use more, not er. For example, we say, Rama is more brave than prudent. This is correct. And we don't say, Rama is braver than prudent, because it is incorrect. Why? Because here we are comparing 2 qualities in Rama. One is bravery and another one is prudence. So whenever 2 qualities are compared in the same person or thing, we use more plus adjective. Just remember it. Now let's learn another very important grammar rule, that is avoiding illogical comparison. Look at this sentence. Iron is more useful than any other metal. This is correct because iron is being compared with all other metals like gold, silver, copper and so on. But if we say iron is more useful than any metal, this becomes incorrect. Why? Because iron is also a metal. So always remember, when we compare something with its own group, we must use any other. Now let's move to something very important, irregular comparison. Usually we form the comparative and superlative by adding er or est, like tall, taller, tallest. But some adjectives don't follow this rule. They change their form completely. These are called irregular adjectives. For example, good or well becomes better and the superlative form is best. Similarly, bad, evil or ill becomes worse and the superlative is worst. Next, the adjective little becomes less or lesser and the superlative form is least. Then we have much, which is used for quantity like water or sugar. Its comparative is more and the superlative is most. And many, which is used for number like books or students, also becomes more and most. So remember, these words don't follow the normal rules. They are special and must be learned by heart. Now let's look at two confusing pairs of words, later versus latter and older versus elder. First, later and latest are used for time. They talk about something happening after another time. For example, he is later than I expected. That means he arrived after the expected time. Next, latter and last are used for position or order. They refer to the second of two things or something near the end. For example, the latter chapters are lacking in interest. This means the chapters near the end are not interesting. Now let's move to the next pair, that is older and oldest. These are used for both persons and things. For example, Rama is the oldest boy in the 11. So here we are comparing ages normally, but elder and eldest are used only for persons and especially for members of the same family. For example, John is my elder brother. This means John is older than me and he is my brother. So remember, later is equal to time, latter is equal to position, older people and things, but elder family members only. Clear? Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's understand another confusing pair, farther versus further and nearest versus next. First, farther and further are both used to express distance. Remember it. For example, we can say, my school is farther than yours. That means it is at a greater physical distance. But further has an extra meaning. It can also mean additional or more. For example, after this, he made no further remarks. This means he made no more remarks. And let's move to nearest and next. Nearest refers to the shortest distance away. For example, where is the nearest phone box? That means the closest one. But next refers to something in a sequence or order, not distance. For example, my uncle lives in the next house. That means the house beside or following in order. So remember, nearest is for closest distance, next one after another in order, farther for physical distance and further for distance or additional. Clear? Now let's go to the next slide. Now let's look at an interesting point, comparatives used as positive. Normally comparative words are used to compare two things like bigger or smaller. But some words look like comparatives, yet they are not used for comparison anymore. They have lost their comparative meaning and are used like normal adjectives. Such words include former, latter, elder, upper, inner, outer and outer. For example, the inner meaning of the letter is not clear. Here inner does not compare two meanings. It simply means the hidden or deeper meaning. Another example, the man is an utter fool. Here utter means complete or total. It is not comparing him with anyone. So remember, these words may look like comparatives, but they are often used as simple adjectives. Now let's discuss adjectives that cannot be compared. Some adjectives express qualities that do not have degrees. That means they can't be more or less. For example, words like square, round, perfect, eternal, universal, and unique. According to the book, these adjectives describe something that is already complete or absolute. So we do not normally say more square or most square or more perfect or most perfect, because something is either square or not square. Something is either perfect or not perfect. So remember, these adjectives are absolute, so they usually cannot be compared. Now let's quickly revise the main rules of comparison of adjectives. First, for short adjectives, we usually add er for the comparative and est for the superlative. For example, tall, taller, tallest. Second, for longer adjectives, we use more and most. For example, beautiful, more beautiful, and most beautiful. Third, remember that some adjectives are irregular, like good, better, best, and bad, worse, worst. Next, we should avoid double comparisons. So, we should not say more sweeter or most happiest. That is incorrect. Also, remember the grammar rule, we use than after comparatives and the before superlatives. For example, taller than and the tallest. Finally, some adjectives show absolute qualities like perfect or unique. So, they are generally not compared. These are the main rules, simple, clear, and very useful for correct English. If you have any doubt or you are not clear at any point, you can comment me in the comment section below. I will reply as soon as possible. Now, this is the end of this episode. Finally, thanks for watching. Kindly consider subscribing my channel. I will come with new and informative videos like this in each episode. Do your work, believe in God, and stay positive.